I'm here to watch the Path of Exile reveal with you. We're seeing a whole new league today.
Come and kill
so
me.
We're gonna check that out together.
I'll be there for 3 hours
and see what's going on.
It's going to be a great party. Look forward to seeing you in a few
Man,
hours.
timed that well.
And
We're starting in 15
for
seconds.
A really good ExileCon. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Oh, for those asking and have been asking, I do plan on checking out the Path of Exile League this time. To be perfectly clear, they're sponsoring me for this and some tweets. They aren't sponsoring me to actually try the league, but I am planning on trying the league. So.
Thanks for joining us today as we reveal Path of Exile's next expansion, Lake of Kalandra, which launches on PC and Mac on August 19th, and on Xbox and PlayStation on August 24th. Twitch drops are enabled for today's livestream, so make sure you follow the instructions below to link your account and earn your Wrangler wings. Here's what you can expect from today's livestream. First, we'll debut the trailer for the Lake of Kalandra expansion, and then dive into its challenge.
I love that they do this at the beginning.
We'll discuss the further improvements we're making to Path of Exile's endgame in this release. There's a slew of new unique items for us to cover, and also a broad power boost to many different uniques. We've got a selection of new skill and support gems to reveal, and are excited to unveil our plans for revamping 3 past leagues.
Jesus.
Then we'll cover more details about game balance before revealing this league's new supporter packs and what's going to happen in the lead up to launch next week. Our livestream ends with a Q&A session hosted by ZiggyD, where you can ask me your questions in Twitch chat. Then we'll post the full patch notes for you to check out.
Oh.
But before we show you the trailer for Lake of Kalandra, I wanted to talk to you about ExileCon. Back in 2019, we were ready to announce Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile Mobile, and we wanted to do it with a bang. We filled a venue with thousands of Path of Exile fans from around the world and ran our first ExileCon convention. It was an amazing experience, full of fans interacting with developers, and everyone who attended can vouch for the amazing energy at the event. Announcing Path of Exile 2 on that stage was one of the highlights of my life. Since then, we've been hard at work on Path of Exile 2. Now that we are getting close to release, we will finally be ready to announce the date that the closed beta starts at ExileCon 2023. We're holding ExileCon 2023 in Auckland, New Zealand, on the weekend of the 29th and 30th of July 2023. In addition to the beta start date, we'll also be announcing everything there is to know about new game systems, character classes, items, and so on.
Hey Brody, hey Peter.
Attendees will be able to play Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile Mobile, see all the presentations live, meet our development team, hang out with their favorite streamers, and much more. The first wave of tickets will go on sale in 2 weeks. We'll make a news post tomorrow with more information so that you have time to determine if you're able to attend before the tickets go on sale. We are so excited to finally talk about what we've been working on, and to let some of you experience the next generation of action RPGs. In the meantime, we have a strong lineup of Path of Exile 1 expansions underway, and today we're proud to unveil Path of Exile Lake of Kalandra, which launches next week.
Hi Bubba, thanks for your 22, bud. Wait, PoE 2 wasn't a joke? No, it's not only not a joke, but it's making progress. Yeah, it's gonna be big.
Exile, you have wandered far to arrive at the shores of my lake. A hidden realm I have overseen for longer than time itself. These waters harbor deadly secrets.
Good show. Fifth into your who? Thank you for the 10 bomb, dude. Thank you, buddy. Oh, dude, the level builds around you.
Lost is reflected here. Reassemble it as you see fit. But the mirror distorts reality. Beware the image that strikes back.
Looks like a more advanced version of Temple, where instead of like pre-choosing a layout, you build your own layout. What's that? Oh. Harvest rework? Uh-oh.
The lake calls to you, Exile. Will you endure? Or will you drown?
I wonder how many people's heart just stopped when they saw Harvest rework in the endgame community. Tireless, thank you for
In the Kalandra
52.
Challenge League, you will travel to the mirrored lake that granted Kalandra her powers of reflection. We want you to experience the story for yourself, so I'll avoid spoiling the details here. When you get to explore the league next week, you'll find out more about Kalandra and her motivations. Your experience with Kalandra so far is probably of her coveted mirror, which duplicates items by reflecting them. The lake itself has the power to reflect entire encounters from elsewhere in Rayclust. As you explore the lake, these reflections emerge from its mirrored surface. Sometimes these reflections are encounters with hordes of monsters, and sometimes you'll encounter extremely powerful foes, reflected from elsewhere in Rayclust. Often, reflections involve League content, such as this encounter with a Harbinger boss. As you play through the League, you'll occasionally encounter a set of columns protruding from the ground, with a mirrored tablet on top. This tablet invites you to construct a custom set of encounters at the Lake of Kalandra, offering a series of different reflections to place in whatever layout you wish. Each of these reflections represents an encounter that you must defeat when you next travel to the lake. Once you have assigned a reflection to every location on your mirror tablet, which will take a few areas, you can open a portal to the Lake of Kalandra itself. There you will get to experience these reflections of Rayclust as Kalandra manifests each encounter you have chosen. But as you push farther out onto the lake's shrouded waters, you will find each encounter to be more difficult but more rewarding. This difficulty value counts up by 1 for each location away from the entrance the encounter is.
Okay.
Players wanting the best rewards will try to engineer tablets that have long, windy strings of encounters, reaching very high difficulty values by the end. To do this, there are occasional options that can be chosen which allow you to move and swap the entrance, reflections, and water tiles on the tablet. Additionally, as you progress through the league, you'll be able to unlock special abilities that let you manipulate the options you have available on each tablet. If you don't like any of the choices available to you, you can earn the ability to skip picking one entirely. The next ability is even stronger. It lets you re-roll the list of options so that you can immediately pick another one. Finally, you can earn the ability to exile a choice entirely. For the rest of this tablet, that choice will no longer appear.
That'd be great for hardcore players.
Once you reach maps, you'll be able to itemize your mirrored tablets so that they don't have to be played immediately. They can be stored for later or traded with other players.
That's cool.
As you visit the Lake of Kalandra to attempt your mirrored tablets, there are many types of rewards you can find. An encounter that is based on a past league implicitly grants the rewards from that league, but with extra juice so that you're not missing out on bonuses you'd have obtained if your Atlas tree applied to the lake. Other encounters that aren't based on past leagues generally yield a reward chest that rises out of the lake when you complete the encounter. Certain reflections grant you access to a new variation on rare items, exclusive to the Kalandra Challenge League. When you complete the encounter, you'll get access to some reflecting mist, which presents you with a difficult choice. It generates a rare ring or amulet with an unusual set of mods. Some are very high, and some are very negative, which hurt your character. The item is then duplicated, with a reflected copy having inverse mods. Negative ones are now positive, and vice versa. The amount that all of these mods are scaled up by is based on the difficulty of the encounter you just completed. You may only pick one of these items to keep.
That's kind of cool. Okay.
It'll often be a tough choice, with each item having its own strong pros and cons. But sometimes, you'll be offered an item where the negative mods aren't downsides for your build, and the juiced up positive mods are very attractive. There are also some special new jewelry base types that you can rarely receive from this process. One rare and difficult encounter rewards you with an advanced version of this crafting process. It allows you to bring your own ring or amulet, distorting and reflecting it with the same process described before. The mods are scaled up in value and some are randomly negated. The reflected copy has the inverse set of negations. It will certainly be tempting to gamble with some of your best jewelry to try to double the values that really matter for your build and negate the ones you don't care about.
Oh, man.
If you're very lucky, you may find a special League-exclusive unique ring at the lake. Kalandra's touch mirrors the effect of your other ring.
Oh.
The Kalandra Challenge League has something for everyone. It's an out-of-area combat league where you build your own sequences of encounters. It lets you fully dictate your desired level of risk and reward and fully customize what content you play. It features a powerful crafting system, valuable rewards, and offers a glimpse into the lore of one of Path of Exile's most iconic characters.
Okay.
We can't wait to play it with you next week.
So they heard you like RNG.
In every expansion leading up to Path of Exile 2's release, we'll be improving Path of Exile's endgame with new content to explore and new ways to customize your endgame experience. In the Lake of Kalandra expansion, we're introducing Atlas Memories. They aren't a League feature, they're part of the core game, affecting standard and persisting once the Kalandra League has ended. In maps, you'll very rarely find a memory item, which represents a set of memories that an NPC has about their past. Something special happened to them while exploring maps, and you're able to experience those events for yourself. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. In this Atlas memory, Kirik tells you about the time that he stumbled across a staging ground for a Harbinger invasion of Rayclust. Each successive map you play in the sequence has more and more Harbinger portals and invaders that you must deal with.
Well, this is cool.
This is a memory of Nico's, where he entered a sequence of maps that were entirely consumed by permanent breaches, like a Breachlord's domain. He survived to talk about it, but will you? Right-click a memory and apply it to a completed map on your Atlas. It'll mark out a series of adjacent maps that the Atlas memory will span. When you next talk to the relevant NPC in your hideout, they'll tell you about their recollections and will allow you to start exploring the memory.
Oh, there's lore
Each map
behind
in the
each one of
sequence is
them.
provided for free by the NPC, and you'll be able to roll it like usual before running it.
Oh, that's cool. So when you
Because
find one of
these
those,
maps
it's
are
like
memories
5
of the
maps.
NPC, they are not affected by your Atlas tree. However, the content is generally as difficult and rewarding as a fully specialized Atlas tree would cause it to be.
That's cool. I like that. That's pretty neat.
Each successive map in the sequence gets harder and more rewarding as the memories intensify. While memories are tradable, they're also very rare and valuable, so you'll probably want to complete them yourself if you can. For players who love lore, Atlas memories help expand on the backstory of key NPCs. For players wanting to try out different League mechanics at quite high levels of juice that they haven't specialized their Atlas for, memories let them do this without a bunch of respecking. And for everyone else, Atlas memories are a great way to earn some valuable items, if you're strong enough to complete them.
That's not me.
The Lake of Kalandra expansion also contains a new unique map that I'm quite excited about. The Trial Master is back. This boss from Ultimatum, and more importantly the unique items he drops, have been sorely missed and will be making a return as the Tower of Ordeal's unique map in Lake of Kalandra. This map can be created by completing difficult endgame Val content. We have not forgotten about the rest of Ultimatum and have a specific plan for how it will return in the future.
A specific
Whenever we're improving
plan.
Path of Exile's endgame, we take every opportunity we can to add new variations of rewards that you can find. We don't want to say too much about how these are acquired, but in this expansion it's possible to very rarely find special foil versions of any pinnacle boss unique item. These have the same stats as regular ones, but are certain to be highly prized by collectors or wealthy players wanting to show off. The Lake of Kalandra expansion contains 14 new unique items. In addition to the Kalandra's Touch ring that is exclusive to the Kalandra Challenge League, we have introduced a new endgame pinnacle
Shiny
boss
Pokemon,
reward,
that's
a
right.
supporter unique, the Tower of Ordeal's unique map, 6 new Grand Spectrum jewels, and even some leveling uniques. The first we're showing you today is Soul Ascension, a pair of gloves designed by Zizaran. They drop from the Uber Elder. Soul Eater is a very powerful buff, but it is usually hard to obtain in boss fights. This unique grants you the ability to gain stacks of Soul Eater when you hit a unique enemy, but also makes you lose those stacks if you aren't near one. Ghost Wraith is a leveling unique which allows you to play as an almost pure energy shield character during early parts of the campaign. We'll reveal the other new unique items in this expansion over the next week.
Wait, there's an Uber Elder now?
Path of Exile
Yes,
has a lot
Uber.
of unique items in its core drop pool. Over 700 in fact. We feel that there are 2 big problems with unique items at the moment. The first is that you find too many, and the second is that they are generally pretty useless when you do. Sure, there are some powerful endgame or build-enabling uniques that feel amazing to find,
Hey,
but
Rapunzel,
the
thanks for the
majority of
101,
unique items
dude.
found throughout the game are rarely actually useful to you. In the Lake of Kalandra expansion, we have made a lot of changes here. We have reduced the overall drop rate of uniques throughout the game and have rebalanced and overhauled over 100 existing unique items, with an emphasis on uniques in the core drop pool, including leveling uniques and some endgame uniques.
Whoa.
You're going to find unique items less frequently now, but when you do, they're going to be a lot more punchy.
Okay.
Nectar's Lantern has been completely changed from the ground up. Previously, it was trying to allow you to play a hybrid attacker and spellcaster, but it didn't really work very well. With the
Fair.
new design, it's a lot more elegant and delivers on this goal by simply granting high damage and the Battle Mage effect, so that your weapon damage is added to your spells.
Cool.
Thousand Ribbons is an example of an item where we merely needed to tweak values on the existing mods to make it a lot better. We want mod value rolls to matter more, and this item now showcases that well.
Damn, it's like doubled across
If you
the
find a
board.
high rolled one early on, you're
Tripled.
probably not replacing it for a long time.
Yeah, dude. My lord.
Malachai's Simula was trying to deliver the Blood Mage fantasy by allowing you to spend life to cast your spells. This was meant to be special because the Blood Magic Keystone was far away from the Witch starting location on the skill tree. Unfortunately, this item wasn't really powerful enough to justify its use. It has now been overhauled, and alongside Blood Magic, it grants a powerful multiplicative damage boost.
Cool.
With over 100 uniques rebalanced in this way, your play experience is now punctuated by quite large bursts of power when you find one. We'll continue to examine the power level and rarity of more unique items in subsequent expansions.
Crazy, we'll be playing Cult tomorrow morning. I'm
The
kind
Lake of Kalandra expansion includes
slammed
3
after
new
just being
skill
in pain
gems
all
and 1
day.
new support gem. Alchemist's Mark is a new mark skill. Igniting or poisoning the marked target creates burning or caustic ground underneath them, based on the damage of the strongest ignite or poison on the enemy. The damage of the ground effects also scales with Curse and Mark effect, providing a non-standard way to scale your build's damage. Hitting the marked target also refills some of your flask charges. This new skill opens up an extra source of damage for Ignite or Poison-focused characters, especially for Ignite builds that want an alternative to Flame Surge, or Poison builds that cause fewer, higher damage poisons. This high-level build uses Flame Blast, with 100% of the damage converted to Chaos, to inflict huge poisons on enemies. When Alchemist's Mark is cast on an enemy first, that enemy drops Caustic Ground when it's poisoned, scaled by those big Flame Blast poison hits, melting everything into a puddle.
Sounds fun.
Galvanic Field is a new
Thank you, Rye.
shock-themed spell. When used, you gain a buff, granting a small bonus chance to shock. When you next shock an enemy, the buff is consumed and the enemy becomes energized, repeatedly zapping themselves and nearby targets, a lot like Ball Lightning. If the energized enemy dies, then the energy sits at their location and continues to zap things. Galvanic Field's area of effect and zap damage scale with the strength of the shock on the target. While Galvanic Field is great for any build that shocks, you can even fully build around it, and use a skill with increased shock effectiveness like Arc to shock enemies and kill them with a ball of death. Lightning Conduit is another new shock-themed spell. A wave propagates out from the target location, causing lightning bolts to strike all shocked enemies in a large area. The damage is scaled by the strength of the shock on each enemy. Lightning Conduit cannot itself shock and won't hit non-shocked enemies at all, so the challenge with this skill is to find a way to consistently apply powerful shocks to your targets to make the most of Lightning Conduit's high damage potential and area of effect.
So that'd be good
This
with the totem
high-level
build.
build uses Wave of Conviction to shock enemies, before casting Lightning Conduit until they're obliterated. For longer fights, it can employ Galvanic Field to create a constant source of lightning damage.
Just
Last
arc
but
with
not
the
least,
delay?
Overcharge
Kind of,
support is a new support gem that causes supported skills to deal less damage, but makes them inflict much stronger shocks and grants them a higher chance to shock. Overcharge lets many different lightning skills create powerful shocks. Use this to take advantage of Shock's large damage multiplier, or to activate Lightning Conduit and Galvanic Field. As Path of Exile expands, we often revisit previous leagues, reworking them so they stay relevant and engaging. In Lake of Kalandra, we are targeting 3 such leagues: Arch-Nemesis, Beyond, and Harvest. The larger context here is that we've been re-examining what role rare and magic monsters have in Path of Exile. The introduction of Arch-Nemesis modifiers as the monster mod pool prompted quite a lot of discussion about how often you should encounter rare and magic monsters, how difficult they should be to kill, and how rewarding their death should be. Previously, League content made fights hard by spawning a lot of rare monsters. A whole lot. In some cases 6 to 8 times the normal rate of rare monsters.
Yeah.
Now that we have better mods available to make fights against rare monsters individually challenging, we have gone through the whole game and normalized the rate that rare monsters are spawned at. Some leagues had quite large reductions in spawn rate. You won't encounter situations with dozens of rare monsters on screen at once anymore. Alongside this reduction of how many rare monsters you'll face, we have improved their rewards and made sure that they scale with both difficulty of the encounter and any item rarity or quantity bonuses that you have.
Okay.
During the campaign, you'll only encounter 1 and 2 mod rare monsters. The 2 mod encounters are a bit harder and have better drops. In maps, you'll stop encountering 1 mod rare monsters entirely, and will mostly encounter 2 and 3 mod rare monsters. It'll also be possible to encounter 4 mod rare monsters again. Not only are the innate item drop bonuses scaled up significantly on monsters with many mods, but we have made these challenging encounters rewarding in another way too. About a third of the more powerful Arch-Nemesis modifiers now use a special reward conversion system. For example, if you defeat a monster with a Corruptor mod, all of its drops become corrupted. The Solaris Touched mod converts all of its item drops to maps. The Katava Touch mod will cause the rarity of its drops to be upgraded by 1 tier, so magic becomes rare, rare becomes unique, and so on. If you're lucky, you can find these conversion
We've
modifiers
made
on
unique
both the
items
third
much
and
rarer.
fourth
Proceeds to
mod
get
of a rare
4 in 1
monster.
drop.
This causes them to stack together. So if you kill a 4 mod rare monster with both the Entangler and Katava Touched mods on it, its heavily juiced drops will also be converted to jewels with their rarity upgraded by a tier. Due to the high amount of inherent item rarity that 4 mod rare monsters have, this may result in several unique jewels dropping.
Okay. Well. Thank
This
you, Busy
conversion
Amateur.
system
Appreciate
is
it, buddy.
fully compatible with your item rarity and quantity bonuses, as well as the drop bonuses from all other Arch-Nemesis mods. Going forward, we want to make sure that a lot more item reward mechanics scale with your character item bonuses. Get your Magic Find characters ready. As a result of this system, when you do encounter a rare monster with many Arch-Nemesis mods, you are well rewarded for the difficult fight.
Jesus.
We have also been listening to feedback about the Arch-Nemesis mods that can spawn on magic monsters. Too many of them had external visual clarity
build looked
issues like
awesome.
on-death effects. We have toned these down on magic monsters so that more of them are stat-based bonuses that aren't so spammy. Encounters that spawn a series of magic monsters now make sure to preserve the same Arch-Nemesis modifiers between the monsters rather than rolling a different one for each monster. This will further help keep the game state understandable in hectic situations. Beyond was introduced in August 2014, initially as a hardcore-only challenge league. It's 8 years old now and certainly has several issues. Firstly, the art. Have you ever really taken a close look at a Beyond Demon? It is literally a bandit from Act 2, dunked in red paint. The second issue is its balance. The number of magic and rare monsters spawned is so much higher than the rest of the game, and whatever problems that resulted in before are magnified now that rare monsters are meant to be more difficult. Beyond also spawns way too many unique bosses, which causes its own set of issues. In Lake of Kalandra,
least
we've
I have
given
my
Beyond
chicken
much
has
more
been
than a
killed.
fresh coat of paint. The Scourge have taken over the realm of the Beyond Demons. The old bandit Beyond Demons are gone. Summoning monsters from Beyond will now summon Scourge monsters and bosses. We have completely rebalanced the rate that Beyond monsters and bosses spawn at so that it's appropriate for modern Path of Exile.
Hey, pal.
The new Beyond monsters can now occasionally drop the Scourge League's tainted currency items that allow you to modify corrupted items. We've also completely
here we
revamped
go.
how harvest crafting works.
Here we go.
Rather than being presented with a selection of crafting options that must be used immediately, you now receive itemized tradable life force of the appropriate color. This
Okay.
life force can be used later, in your own time, at the Hoarder crafting bench in your hideout. Its crafting options are now priced in terms of this itemized life force currency. Tier 4
seems good.
bosses are now encountered much more frequently and can drop a key to fight a Shabi. She yields special life force which can be used for a specific set of crafts. We have rebalanced all harvest crafts for the new system and have removed a bunch of filler crafts and some ones with deterministic outcomes that were incredibly RNG gated before. Some crafts that provided access to exclusive content, like the special offerings to the goddess, have been removed because these items can now be found in more appropriate locations elsewhere in the game. The result of these changes is that when you complete a harvest, you aren't presented with 30 crafts which must either be used immediately or unsafely traded to some player you found on a community Discord server. It also means that every bit of life force you receive is going towards a craft that you actually want to use on one of your items, when you're ready to use it. Your interaction with the Sacred Grove is now far simpler as well. Just enter, pick your plots, defeat the monsters, and get on with your mapping. Like with Arch Nemesis and beyond, we have also addressed the monster composition of Harvest's fights, so that it doesn't contain too many rare monster mods and so that it is of appropriate difficulty for its rewards. In addition, the rewards for Harvest now scale with map quantity and pack size, incentivizing you to juice your maps. Previously,
Damn, dude,
the
these are all
crafts you
super
received were not
positive
scaled up
changes.
at all if you played a harder map. Last week, we posted this expansion's character
That's
balance
cool.
manifesto, which
Yep, that
detailed
was
the many
actually
changes
cool.
we're making in Lake of Kalandra.
You
There
did
are plenty
slide
more
in there that
changes,
things
which
were
we will include
balanced.
in the full patch
They were
notes that will be
rebalanced,
posted
but
after this live stream.
Hopefully that's not too big of a
But
deal,
on
right?
this stream, I'd like to talk about a few specific
Yeah, it's
areas.
good for casual players, I
Minion
agree.
itemization, Exalted and Divine Orbs, and the Trickster Ascendancy class. Historically, minion builds have not been particularly reliant on the stats of their items. Most of the power of their minions came from their skill and support gems. This led to a few problems. Firstly, it gave them a bit of a free ride compared to most other character builds. And secondly, it meant that it was hard for minion players to actually specialize their character to be really, really good. We want to solve both of these problems in this expansion. Path of Exile is a game about items, and that means that you will now be strongly rewarded for finding items that make your minions better. It also means that, like with other builds, if you find good items, you'll be far more damaging and survivable than before. We described a variety of minion changes in last week's character balance manifesto. Today I want to show you the new base item types we have added to help your minion itemization. We've added a new ring base type, the Bone Ring. This ring has implicit minion elemental resistances and can roll minion related modifiers.
Cool.
We've added level 20 and 50 versions of the Convoking Wand, called the Calling Wand and Covenant Wand respectively. Like the Convoking Wand, these new base types can roll minion-related modifiers. Some new minion-related mods have been added to the pool available to these wands, and some existing mods have been adjusted or made more common. We have repurposed the bone-themed spirit shields so that they have minion damage implicit mods rather than spell damage, and can also roll minion-related mods. Alongside the stable of existing unique items, there's now quite a lot more base type support for minion characters, and good mods on those base types can stack up to some pretty large bonuses for your minions. I also wanted to discuss two of the rarest currency items in Path of Exile, Divine Orbs and Exalted Orbs. These actually have the same drop rate, but Exalted Orbs are worth so much more in trade because there's no easy vendor recipe for them, and because they're consumed when you craft certain meta mods onto items. Out of these two currency items, we would actually prefer the Divine Orb effect to be rarer, so that unique items with good rolls matter more, and so that players can exalt craft their items more frequently. We are making two changes that will impact this. Firstly, we are changing the cost of crafting meta mods so that they cost Divine Orbs rather than Exalted Orbs.
Oh.
Secondly, we are changing the 6-link vendor recipe to grant 20 Orbs of Fusing rather than a Divine Orb.
Oh.
This change will result in Exalted Orbs being far more available for crafting, and Divine Orbs less available for re-rolling mods on
Well, there
items.
you go.
It'll certainly be interesting to see what the de facto trade currency becomes next league. Next, I'd like to talk about the Trickster Ascendancy class. We haven't been happy with the state of this Ascendancy class recently. While it used to be quite powerful, we moved its defining feature, Ghost Dance, onto the main passive skill tree. Since then, it has had a confused identity and hasn't met the power level of the other Ascendancy classes. In this expansion, we have reworked the Trickster with a focus on establishing thematically appropriate defenses and ways to manipulate speed. One step ahead allows the Trickster to manipulate time in an interesting way. Enemies are slower than normal and cannot have their action speed raised above this value, such as through an acceleration shrine. Conversely, the Trickster is faster by default and cannot have action speed lowered below this value, effectively making them immune to effects that lower action speeds such as freeze, chill, or temporal chains.
Cool.
Spellbreaker ties together spell suppression and energy shield in a powerful way. Spellbreaker grants some spell suppression chance, which is an effect that reduces damage taken from spells. The skill also starts your energy shield recharge half the time you suppress spells. Since Trickster characters tend to have a high evasion rating, you will be evading some hits and recharging on others, meaning that your energy shield recharge stays active most of the time. Spellbreaker also further improves defenses by reducing the damage you take from suppressed spells while on full energy shield.
Seems okay.
For those that want a different way to recover energy
20%
shield, the
pretty
powerful Soul Drinker notable passive is no longer exclusive to Forbidden Jewels from the Uber-Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds. Any Trickster can now allocate this skill. Polymath provides more bonus damage, life, mana, and energy shield on kill for each different type of mastery you have allocated. It reinforces the idea of a Trickster being a jack of all trades, and will lead to interesting decisions when planning your passive tree, trying to fit in as many different types of masteries as possible.
Okay. That was a lot.
Overall, the new Trickster is intended to be the Shadow's answer to the Champion, but faster. He should be an exciting option for players who want to get a lot of evasion, energy shield, and recovery out of their ascendancy class while still being able to melt enemies. Alongside today's livestream, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Knight and Rogue packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value and points, plus several exclusive microtransactions. These packs are only available during the Kalandra League and will leave the store forever in 3 months. Every microtransaction you are about to see is entirely cosmetic and does not affect your character's progression or power. The Knight Pack series contains 6 exclusive microtransactions, including the full Knightmaster armor set. The Etheric Mana Flask releases a burst of mana upon activation, then draws in energy from the environment as your mana refills. The Hoarder's Stash is a stash skin that can be used in your hideout. As you place items in the stash, they hover above it until you're finished, before being sucked into storage.
Kinda cool.
This is the Knightmaster armor set. While wearing its helmet, your actions are periodically duplicated by an ethereal copy of yourself. The Blood-Scouring Cloak absorbs blood as you slay monsters. It tracks your kill streak and cleans itself off when the slaughter ends.
Jesus.
The Ring of the Victor causes a podium to rise up underneath you when you are standing still, elevating you above other players.
Oh my god! Oh my lord, dude.
You
The
are
Warlock's
better.
Lieutenant Portal
Spend your
summons a
money,
warrior
it's
spirit
delicious.
who will greet you,
Look at
cheer
this.
you on, and commend you on your actions.
Above the plebs.
Pay to rise. I love it. I love it.
The Rogue Pack series has 6 exclusive microtransactions, including the Rogue Stalker armor set. The Beast of Burden Pit visually carries your items for you, becoming more laden with bags and packs the more full your inventory gets.
What? Look at that little doggo.
The Collector Serpent Shield covets the treasure you
Best
find.
boy.
Whenever you pick up an item, the serpent darts out to grab it.
Oh, come on. This is cool.
This is the Rogue Stalker armor set. While wearing its gloves, critical strikes cause blades to appear and slice at your enemies.
Dude, these cosmetics are getting kind of nasty cool.
The Corpse Bloom footprints cause exotic plant growth in your wake. The plants especially love corpses and will seek them out and grow in larger patches around them. On the other hand, the Undertaker's Amulet inters corpses for you, burying them and marking their location with gravestones. The Unstable Explosives back attachment is not for the faint of heart. As your life gets lower and lower, it gets closer and closer to exploding.
Oh, I
and
love
when you
it.
die, your party members will certainly feel it.
Cyclone
As I
Bunny
mentioned
has been
before, these
slain.
packs are exclusive to the Kalandra League and will leave the store in 3 months. They're available right now at pathofexile.com/purchase,
That's fun.
and they directly fund the ongoing development of Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1 expansions like Lake of Kalandra. In addition, the supporter packs introduced with the Sentinel expansion are leaving the store forever in 1 week. Now's your last chance to purchase them, and we greatly appreciate your support. Speaking of things leaving the store, the Kerrix Vault Pass for Sentinel is only available for the next few days also, and will leave the store forever when the league ends. There's no penalty for purchasing the pass late in the league after you've wrapped up your map completion, so if you're pleased with where you got to in maps and Sentinel and want to lock in your unique skins, it's not too late to buy your pass. Next up, we've got the Q&A with ZiggyD. Once that ends, we'll post the full patch notes for Lake of Kalandra. Over the next week, our community team will post teasers for new and revamped unique items, upcoming quality of life improvements, and an announcement for the League launch race event. On launch weekend, we'll be running another set of Twitch drops, and expect to release the new Mystery Box and Kerrix Vault Pass in the days after launch.
Cool. A lot
Thanks
of new
for joining
stuff in
us
this
and
league,
checking
man.
out today's reveals. We can't wait to see you in Ray Class
I'm
on
gonna see if
August
Ziz can
19th.
make me that bow build.
We'll begin the
and then we're
Q&A
gonna
in
use
a few
that.
moments, so please get your questions ready in chat.
Oh man, that bow build looked super fun to play. Are there any codes for PoE? Nope, not at all. It's totally free to play. So yeah, you can just go download it and give it a try. I will be playing this league. What I do with leagues is I generally start playing them, and then if I put in 5 hours or if I put in 100 hours, it's strongly dependent on a synergy of if I like the league and if I like my build. Oh, there's a third factor, and if there's nothing else I want to play at the time. League is Path of Exile is one of those games where it's always kind of there and it's always getting updates and it's always fun to play. So I'm not really too like if I'm not really feeling a league, then I'm just like, cool, I'll just wait until next time. But every so often a league comes along, and this has happened 4 or 5 times now because I've got, God, how many hours do I have in PoE? Every so often a game comes along. Yeah, I'm up to 882 hours. Every so often a league comes along where it all just clicks. And in those leagues, I generally play anywhere between like 80 and 150 hours. So, yeah.
G'day, folks.
We'll see.
ZiggyD here. Welcome
I'll
back,
definitely be trying this
Exiles. Chris, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Excellent to have you back
I
for
like
some
those
Q&A
scratches.
action after some very big announcements. Firstly, though, super exciting news about ExileCon returning next year. It's actually a kind of a, I don't know if it was the same for other people, but it was kind of an emotional announcement because that was such a beautiful time for us last ExileCon, and you know, it's been a hard few years, I think, as well. So it hits kind of extra hard. What led to the decision to organize a new ExileCon now?
Well, we've wanted to run another one for a while, and it was unfortunate that immediately after the last one, there was the global pandemic and stuff, and that just made it too difficult to organize events, plus all of the safety issues. But things are looking both a bit safer, and we certainly have a lot of Path of Exile 2 stuff to talk about. And this kind of fits into the overall marketing plan for Path of Exile 2, is that next year is the year that we start to reveal pretty much everything. We're going to go through every game system, we're going to show all the areas, the classes, like, so much has changed since last time we talked about it. Like, it has evolved to be a bigger thing, and we want to talk about that in detail. And so we're going to start the marketing. Everything's going to debut at ExileCon 2023. And it's an opportunity. People can play the basically complete game at that stage. We can announce when the beta date's starting. We can go through panels of all of the things. And then we can, you know, kickstart the marketing and show people in other territories. You know, I think there's Gamescom, PAX West, and so on, various other places that we can then take that to after ExileCon.
That gives us a pretty
How am I feeling? I'm getting
firm-ish timeline for
Getting there.
PoE2 then, which is very exciting. 'Cause,
We won't be releasing it before July next year, that's correct.
that's true. We've been holding our breaths, I think, since last ExileCon. That was like such a huge reveal then, but a lot of what was revealed has kind of leaked its way in game since then. So I imagine that if you've got a whole new ExileCon of stuff to show, then, you know, how much more progress has there been made since then?
Yeah. Well, don't get your hopes up. We're not announcing another new sequel. Like, the ability to announce Path of Exile 2 on stage was a surprise that was amazing, but we're not announcing a Path of Exile 3, obviously. This is all about Path of Exile 2 and mobile. And whatever Path of Exile 1 expansion is immediately coming out after ExileCon, like the next one in the chain.
I mean, if you want to grab some news headlines, just be like, forget about Path of Exile 2. We're going straight to PoE 3. Make
That would
headlines.
be pretty.
How
pretty good.
cold is it in Auckland in July, by the way? That's in winter for you Northern Hemisphere folks.
It's not too bad, actually. I'm in a t-shirt today, right? Like, it's pretty mild. It's not like the frigid suburbs of Melbourne or wherever you guys are. But seriously, for people in the Northern Hemisphere, I understand that your winters involve things like snow. We don't get that here. It's pretty much like 8 to 25 degrees C, depending on what day it is, and it's not too bad. There are lots of good things to see in New Zealand in the winter. Like, there's a really good ski, season going on at the same time in the cold parts of New Zealand, but in Auckland, it's no problem whatsoever. So we feel that having a convention during winter is not a big logistical issue.
Great. But yes, don't bring your, board shorts and singlet shirts. Bring some warm clothes. And make some considerations if you're cosplaying as well. I was originally planning a Tentacle Miscreation cosplay, but I'm going to have to change my plans, I think. So, Lake of Kalandra is the new league this time around, and the mirrored lakes look incredible. I love the basalt columns rising out and the reflection of the clouds and sun and stuff on the water. Is there some like new graphical tech here, or is this just finding some creative new ways to use what you've got?
Well, the great thing about the way we're developing Path of Exile 1 and 2 is we get basically the PoE 2 engine and PoE 1 that we can use as we see fit, and so that means when we wanted like surface reflections for the lake, we just, found an engineer and said, how hard would this be? And the answer was less than 1 day. And so it's really helpful that we have like a world-class team of graphics engineers working on iterating. Even though we're not using most of the capabilities in PoE 1, when we need to, we're definitely able to.
Awesome. Kalandra is such a mythical figure in PoE 2 as well. So, to do an expansion dedicated to her is a big decision, I guess. But without spoiling too much of a story, of course, because I understand you don't want to spoil too much right now. But how did you arrive at like the theme and flavor for this expansion? Like, it's a lake and she's a bird lady.
We've wanted to explore Kalandra for a while, and this is a perfect opportunity because it both fits the lore that we've built up for her, and also mechanically works really well with the out of area build a complicated set of encounters kind of thing. The theme of her or the lake being able to reflect various aspects of raid class, fitting in with the mirror theme, and also fitting in with the fact that you're choosing encounters, many of which are league content that players have played before with a bit of a twist on it. It helps kind of justify the fact that you're, fighting breaches and that kind of stuff, not just arbitrarily. It's because she and the lake are intentionally able to actually manifest stuff from elsewhere in raid class.
Speaking of like this zone building concept, this seems like a pretty natural evolution of Synthesis is custom map building, which I'm very excited to see a expansion on that concept. But you don't need to collect a bunch of physical things this time. How is your approach to designing league content like this changing?
Well, we see this one as similar to Synthesis, similar to Incursion as well, because you're building an area, and we like to think that we've learned from mistakes we made in the past, which may not be the same mistakes that Twitch chat would call out that we've been making, but we have certainly improved how we're doing it.
We don't do that.
Also, another aspect here is that the difficulty scaling, in this case, based on Manhattan distance depth from the origin when you're playing, that is similar to what we were doing in both Delirium, where there was difficulty based on distance from origin, and also with Sentinel, where you've got empowerment scores based on a bunch of stuff. So we've learned various ways of juicing up the risk and reward together and using the same kind of math here. But in terms of how we're iterating on these area building leagues, we're trying very hard to not be too micromanagey with this one. You will notice it's relatively easy. You find your mirrored tablet, you put some reflections on it, and then you run it. And you could do a little bit of swapping stuff around to try to make the layout a lot better, but that comes at the cost of not putting a reflection on the tablet. And so it in some ways rewards less micromanagement than usual, just getting in there and killing some monsters. But there'll be opportunities, of course, where people can micromanage it a little bit.
Yeah, well, that kind of segues into my next question, was like, how do you balance something like this between the people that want to just kind of jump in and run some fun content
That's the build
versus the people who really want to think about it and min-max it and make it super challenging, that sort of thing?
I think you'll find cases where you want to opportunistically improve your tablet. So if you were to sit there just skipping lots of choices, trying very hard to get the things that move
Reminds me of the
stuff
first
around.
build I ever played
Take
this
forever
game.
to complete a tablet, and maybe you'd get one that's really cool and worth a lot, but you could have done 2 tablets in the same time. But you'll find situations where you realize if I just swap this
Tornado
entrance
shot, it was
location,
nerfed
it
a long
reduces
time ago?
half the encounters
No.
on the tablet
Maybe
by a
they buffed
huge
it.
amount, and with one small change, or maybe moving one of the water tiles around to make a really long windy path around it, those kind of things there will let a person who's thinking about it deeply get a lot of extra value from the tablet. But to be completely honest, the way I'm playing it is slap some reflections on there and then go and struggle to complete them. So yeah, it's only really the skilled players who are the ones who are going to want to be juicing it all the way.
That sounds familiar. How many maps does it take on average to build a mirrored lake at endgame?
So in the end game, there's approximately 11 or 12 blank tiles to fill in. The tablet size varies a little bit as it gets larger as you progress through. You'd normally get about 2 reflections per map, and so that's approximately 5 to 6 areas for each lake tablet that you want to build. So this is about twice as often as Incursion, where you'd be getting an Incursion temple every 11 areas or so. So we've doubled the rate that you're doing that, and these can be saved up. So it's entirely possible to just stack up a giant pile of maps of lakes, in your stash and come back to them later on if you want to. And of course, they're fully tradable. So if you want to run a lot more lakes, you can just buy them from the trade site, basically.
That's great. How does the mirrored lake building and running work for co-op?
Well, whenever you find a mirrored tablet, everyone in your party gets to improve their tablet. So if you're running through an area together, whenever you get the ability to place a reflection down, everyone can do it on their own tablets. And then at the point that they decide to run the tablet, all the party members can take part in it.
We've already got some questions coming in from chat. Someone asked, how does the edge of the terrain in the mirror of Kalandra area affect things like projectiles like spark bouncing off them and things like that? Can you shoot over these areas? Is it like a hard invisible wall?
I believe that there is projectile transmissibility over them, so you can fire projectiles without hitting a hard wall. I'll do the obligatory dev check to confirm that. Okay, good. I know what's going on there. There will be some invisible wall far off into the corners of the lake, but it will not affect your gameplay.
Great. Crowfire asks, does the mirror ring for Kalandra mirror unique rings? Actually, I have my own question about this, so I might as well bring it up then now. How does the Mirror of Kalandra ring work when you have a unique ring like Snake Pit, where in the right slot, it adds an extra chain, but then in the left slot it does something else? Does it mirror the right slot effect, or does it mirror what would happen if it was in the left slot?
It's exactly as though you had another copy of that ring equipped. One way to look at it is, imagine you took a Mirror of Kalandra and you applied it to the ring, and then you equipped that mirrored copy.
Ah, okay, there you go. So probably not worth doing it on a unique like that then.
But you guys get those cool wings?
Given that it can mirror theoretically the best ring in the game, I guess, so it does work on uniques, but you probably might be better off in some cases.
And it's dynamic as well, of course. You can take it, mirror your ring, mirror a different one, trade it to someone else. It's not locked in like an actual mirror is. But of course, only works on rings.
That's pretty awesome. Aldersberg asks, are there any Lake of Kalandra mechanics timed? Oh, any of the Lake of Kalandra mechanics timed?
Not that I'm aware of. We tried very hard to not have this be a timed league.
Great.
Are you aware of any that are timed?
I mean, stuff like Delirium.
Yeah, right. Things like Delirium or Breach, where if you pop a Breach open, obviously it's going to close with the normal timing that league has, but there's no specific benefits of going fast apart from everything, is a lot better if you play fast.
Oh, Lena, no, I think
the game is already set up, so
the
fast players achieve more stuff in proportion to their speed.
Nice, I like that. Ariador asks, how big is the lake arena, and will non-tanky characters feel claustrophobic? Or dead?
I recommend having another look at the footage that we showed in the trailer and the live stream. Each basically is broken up into approximately screen-sized arenas for each of the encounters. And so you'll be able to see the rough shape from some of the ones we showed there. There's little walkways that come up between them, so it can be seen as a gigantic grid that can be up to 5 by 5 in size, where it's roughly square-shaped islands, except that the shape of each one isn't a square. Like, it can be a square at most, but obviously there's lots of stuff missing around the outside to make it interesting.
This idea of like a screen-sized arena after arena of all sorts of different challenges feels kind of gauntlet-y. That's I didn't really think of it like that.
It's not edited.
Yeah, honestly, they're a lot of fun to play through. It's quite a cool mechanic.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also really looking forward to the fact that there's new crafting mechanics. You guys have been messing with crafting a lot lately, and I love to see it. The ethereal reflection system looks quite awesome. But you also hinted at some unique bases. Are these separate to the previously announced new Minion rings?
Yeah, there's 5 more ring base types that you can get from this league, and basically they crop up in the window when... So there's 2 crafting encounters. The first one will provide you with 2 rings or amulets, and it chooses. And the other one, which is much harder to get and much more valuable, is where you bring your own. And in the one that provides you, occasionally, and of course this is the kind of thing that's proportional to difficulty, like you want to be encountering this in harder encounters, this, in proportion to difficulty, will occasionally generate one of these new base types that have some pretty interesting properties.
Am I
and I
live
think
right now? No.
People should always look at the
They're
announcement page
live.
that we make, pathofexile.com/Kalandra, because we like to hide away things like hovers for the base types and stuff there. So there's lots of extra information and cool things people can see, more screenshots of the stuff, including one of those actual rings, so you can see what it does.
Are you doing any more like secret hidden things on those pages? Like you did that one time, I think it was with Scourge or something.
No comment.
That was fun. I liked that.
I did actually have to get the team to remove a secret hidden thing from the page that was too secret. Players can find that in game.
Gosh, too secret. Okay. Are there any new rare modifiers, or is this mostly about scaling mods beyond their regular power levels? Like we saw 105 strength on a ring, for example.
Other than the implicits on those new ring-based types, of which there are 5 sets, there are no new rare modifiers that spawn on the items, and that's mostly because getting things like +2 skills and more than 100 life on rings and amulets
He
is
says this
pretty
league is turning out
bonkers.
to be huge. There's a lot of good changes.
Like, if the dream here is that you get one where the drawbacks, like let's say you're playing a Resolute Technique character and you don't care about crit, and you also get like some damage over time stuff, and those things are reduced. You weren't using them in the first place, you were playing some other build, and everything else is juiced up to more than double what it initially was. So you can definitely get some really blindingly powerful rings and amulets. And the other thing is you actually get, because you get a choice of 2, you kind of get 2 shots at it. Like if you're unlucky and the wrong things are picked, they may have also been positive on the other side.
Yeah, that's gonna be some big gambles. I'm looking forward to seeing that. We know ahead of time if you'll be seeing the ethereal reflecting mist, which is the one that lets you bring your own version to craft. Or will there just be a stash available there for when you need crafting mechanics like this?
So that one's only available in mirror tablets that are assembled from maps, like in the end game. And because of that, the tablets are itemized, and it's always there for the encounter that has it. And so basically, you will be able to see on a tablet that you're about to run, or one that you're trading for, that it has that. And this means you can either know in advance that it's there, which probably means that tablet commands a higher premium in trade, unless you bring an item in. Or, because you've got your 6 map portals, if you completely forget and you run into this encounter, you can, at worst, go out using a portal and come back in with the item you need.
Okay, great. The fact that you know ahead of time, I think, circumvents a lot of that.
Well, you can just you can YOLO mist one of your current items potentially. Just take a gamble on your current amulet and see what happens.
Oh no, I don't advise that. Can you mirror an already mirrored unique, like a ring or amulet?
No, we had a look, and like with recombinators, we wanted to allow crazy, where you can do, well, you've seen what recombinators can do. But we had a look here because this is already doing quite crazy stuff with items, and we've had to disallow it working on mirrored items and influenced items and corrupted items and synthesized jewelry. A lot of cases that would have been totally nuts. Having said that, it can still do some broken stuff with just general rares from the game.
I love how they use the term broken.
Completely unprecedented, and you don't really need influence mods in play when
So
you're getting
few
vast
game
amounts
devs
of life and
embrace that
resists
term.
and other types of damage.
Oh no, you
and there
can
was
still do
a
broken
new
stuff. It's
oil
cool. It's
to
cool. You could just break the hell out of
anoint
it.
mirrored items. Since we're getting so many this league, and you're like, oh, I didn't oil it first.
They're very aware
Is
of
that
what
like
they
super
do.
rare, or
That's
is
right. That's
that
right.
pretty accessible?
It's roughly as available as the tainted oil, but you don't need to complete corrupted blighted maps. You can just get it from regular blighted maps. And of course, the intention here is that now that there's a lot of mirrored amulets floating around from this crafting system, you don't feel like you're missing out on an anointment by using one of those.
Owler asks, is there a plan for the quarry or glacier run to the tablet mirror and not kill monsters? This is like quarry farming mirror. How does the mirror spawn? Like the tablet spawn, I should say.
My understanding is that the mirror tablet does not spawn if you are massively over level for the area, which is what we've done for years with this kind of stuff. That may mean that you can essentially assemble pre-map tablets, right? I'm not sure of the exact, like how punitive we've come down on that, but they won't have the various reflections that can occur in map content. So by playing pre-map ones, you can't itemize them, you have to run them on the spot, because to stress, map and above tablets are itemizable. Campaign ones have to be played as you complete them. So it's not a good way of farming for trade value that way. Having said that, you may be able to still run quite a lot of tablets just for the regular rewards from them.
Oh, I got a drop.
Yeah, we've mostly seen low-level farming methods like that pay out when the mechanic rewards a lot of generic currency. Do you think that'd be the case here, or?
I mean, the encounters are
vice
rewarding,
rewards?
of course, but
Yeah.
the rewards are generally themed around the type of content it is, right? Like if you're playing a breach encounter, you're getting splinters and that kind of stuff as your reward from that, which of course is, fungible with generic currency. You can certainly trade that. But my advice would be just push onto maps and actually play properly, and you'll get plenty of tablets. Like, we're not in a map starvation kind of system at the moment. Like, you've got drifts of white maps to play if you really want an easy encounter.
Speaking of mapping, let's talk about some endgame improvements, in particular the Atlas memory system. What sort of goals did you have with this new system? They seem like they would help with both pacing of the endgame mapping, but also creation of like a story thread to follow between chunks of maps. Not much else is happening potentially.
The Atlas memory stuff is really cool, actually. Like, I'm low-key as excited for this as I am for the actual league itself. It's just that because they're quite endgame and, moderately rare, it's something that only, people that actually get into red maps and stuff will be interacting with, so it's not quite as broadly applicable as the league. But the important part is we promised that every expansion we're doing until Path of Exile 2, we're going to try to make some improvement to the end game.
Seems like a really cool system.
This is an alternate way of playing through content you're familiar with, but with a twist. And we've designed these to be fun, rewarding, and kind of crazy. Like, we're low-key hoping that certain team members don't actually check these out before release, so we can release them in a really punchy way, because I get the feeling that the fun police may try to turn a few of them down. So an example was I was playing one yesterday where I was asked, can you please try this one and let me know if you think it's over the top? And I join that one, and the theme of it is that there are gangs of rogue exiles that you find like in roaming packs that are trying to hunt you down. And the map I played had 100 rogue exiles in it. Now, I can't promise it's going to release with that number, but it was certainly nuts. And so I kind of want to emphasize these aren't incredibly common in maps, right? Like, you do have to play a bunch of maps to find one. And because there are a bunch of different types of them individually, it's hard to actually get the one you want. And so because of that, we can just go a bit overboard with the rewards. Like, we can do crazy stuff, and it lets us also, like, here's a key thing with the end game stuff this year. You have to juice your Atlas to get full rewards from content. And that means that if you want to try out what is it like to have some silly breach stuff going on, you have to go and specialize your Atlas in breach, and that requires a bunch of respecking. With Atlas memories, you can just go and find a breach memory, and that's essentially fully juiced for the most part. Like, obviously it varies from one to one, but our goal here is you are not missing out on anything by not specializing because your Atlas doesn't apply to it. And so you get some pretty nuts stuff going on. Some of them make you feel like a god power-wise. Like, there are ones who are entirely about some cool thing happens to you and you get to go and experience what that's like. You'll see some situations you don't normally see otherwise. There's some really cool stuff in here I kind of don't want to spoil, because I'm looking forward to the moments on Twitch streams where people find these that everyone's like, what is happening here?
Great.
Yeah, and of course, it's a good opportunity to explain the backstory of NPCs, right? Like, an example is one of the people here who has Atlas memories. In fact, I can talk about who has them. In this set of Atlas memories, it's Carrick and Alva and Einhar and Nico are the four that we went with. And this means we can do more in the future with other NPCs. But everyone loves Einhar and his craziness, and his interaction with these things that he barely understands himself, but certainly wants to make friends with all the beasts in, is quite cool. And for someone like Carrick, for example, he's running the military side of the Atlas exploration. He's got a vast backstory of what happened leading up to his, ability to have this role at the moment. So this explores a few of the things he's done in his youth and interesting things he's encountered in all the mapping that he's done.
I'm really excited that you're expanding out like the lore and story of the endgame stuff, because we mentioned synthesis earlier with Kalandra, but that was another big part of synthesis, is it had a ton of lore for like characters and mapping and stuff like that has kind of disappeared. So it's cool that we're getting something back.
Synthesis is actually quite important canonical Atlas lore to a large extent.
Kalandra's what, a bird?
And it's not off the cards to bring synthesis back. Like, us doing Lake of Kalandra doesn't mean we're not going to potentially do that. It's just that these leagues happen to be moderately similar, so it does scratch the itch a bit, but in a much more accessible way.
Cool. All right. You mentioned that this mechanic also helps a bit with like the concept of Atlas passive tree lock-in. Have you also given any thought to the idea of like separate Atlas tree loadouts or separation between characters and their different trees?
Yeah, this is one of those difficult challenges where there's a lot of reasons why we can't trivially just say, look, here are multiple Atlas trees and so on. In principle, this idea is not something we're in opposition to, right? Like, if people want trade to be a lot easier, we'll sit there on our little throne and tell them in detail about how wrong they are. But for this, we sympathize with the concept that people want to have multiple Atlas trees because they're running multiple characters in that league, or they want to have different loadouts and so on. But there are no changes at this stage related to it. It's something we'll keep discussing.
The Atlas memories give all of their maps for free. You can like craft them in their little window and everything, which seems like a nice buff to map progression. Sustain's not really too hard these days, but still getting those initial unlocks is good. Do these count as like your Atlas completion when you do these maps?
Yes. I should note, though, they only spawn in quite high-tier maps, and they are quite valuable. So you're probably going to have large completion by the time you get them. This is not a thing where you're completing your white maps with it. Like, I forget the exact tier they kick in at, but it might be like tier 14, for example, like a red map kind of thing. There's certainly very endgame, very juicy stuff. Now, you have to apply it to a completed map, but the ones that it snakes out through, which generally goes up tiers rather than down where it can, my understanding is that can go through uncompleted maps and does give you completion for completing them. Now, I haven't actually fact-checked that. That's more of a, this is how it's meant to work. And so, we'll confirm. Like, we'll announce if it is not going to work like that, but my understanding is it should do.
All right. Do the memories like avoid each other on the physical Atlas? And does that mean you can do some weird like memory blocking or something like that by playing multiple memories?
We looked into that, but instead we made it so that they can fully overlap each other. You can apply multiple memories to exactly the same starting map if you want to. They can go on exactly the same path. I mean, they probably won't because they snake randomly. And again, to emphasize it, you should expect these to not be particularly easy to get. Like, yes, people will have multiple running at once occasionally, but they probably had to trade to get those. It would be rare for a person to have multiple concurrently going based on naturally finding them.
How do you get them, by the way? Are they just a random drop?
Yep, they drop. Not often.
Yep.
Okay, now expectations are set.
He's said that like 10 times at this
what
point.
happens
They're
if
rare.
you fail
High
and
tier.
can you
Super
fail, I
rare.
guess?
Very rare.
The Atlas memory.
Not going to have a lot of
things.
sense. Very rare.
I mean, you can certainly run out of portals, but you can still play the next one in the sequence. So it gives you your entitlement of having the ability to try to go for the rewards of each one. Now, if you do fail out and don't have any portals left, or you die in hardcore, you're not getting the drops that you would from the rest of the encounter, obviously, so that sucks. But yeah, technically you can still go and play the harder ones, but I don't see how you're going to do any better at the harder ones in the sequence because they ramp up a lot.
True. Maybe you just had a bad day in one particular map.
Yep.
Will there be any changes to the Atlas passive tree for the 3 league mechanics that have been changed?
That's a good question. So my understanding is that we did change it, right?
Beyond.
Yeah. So less so for Arch Nemesis, but for Harvest and Beyond, there were changes related to the passives. I don't think we released the Atlas tree before release. I'm not sure. That's a good question as well. So either way, it's changes in line with the theme of what we've been doing with these leagues, so it's not going to be too surprising.
Okay. The Tower of Ordeals, the ultimatum boss fight, yeah, it's back. It's created from difficult endgame Val content was the terminology. Is this like Val Temple maps, or is it something else?
We want people to work it out. Like, it's a variety of stuff. So to be clear about how this works, you do several pieces of content, you get some pieces that you can put together, like making Harmager uniques. You place them next to each other in the inventory. And it's, go play some Val content, see what drops, post it on Reddit, It won't be too hard to work out.
Give me like a new fragment set or something for these. Okay.
Yeah, I should clarify with that Atlas tree question, the details will probably be in the patch notes that we're posting as soon as we finish talking, so people won't have long to wait.
It sounds like there's some there's like some sort of creation process here. Does that mean we can influence the roles on the map in any way, or are those random and we get what we get?
It spawns random roles, but it's corrupted, so you can't influence it. So that means if you want to try to get good mods on it, you'll have to, of course, complete said Val content many times.
All right. On new and rebalanced uniques now, we asked about the ring, so I can skip that one. But is the lower drop rate of uniques?
If you want to watch more of this, I don't know how much longer it's going, but you can go to twitch.tv/Path of Exile. Big thanks to them for sponsoring the stream today and the early look, the last hour. I got to go, though, because I can hear my kids flipping out upstairs, and my wife probably needs help with them. So thank you so much. I might be back tonight. I don't know yet. I'm really not sure. Great opportunity to grab the mobile app, because then you'll know if I'm back this evening or not. I really don't know. It's been a very rough day, and I am kind of thrashed. So maybe I'll get on for a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe we'll just try to rest up and get some tomorrow. We'll see. But whatever I do, I will see you all next time for more gaming goodness. Be sure to go to twitch.tv/pathofexile to not only get your drops, but also watch the rest of the interview. Have a great rest of your night, and thanks for being here.